Coming up on our newscast tonight. One of the biggest national holidays in South Korea begins this week. That means a massive exodus of people packing the roads as they try to reach their hometowns just in time for the Lunar New Year celebrations. It's the last Olympic showing for the South-North joint women's ice hockey squad. Though they did not get a win, they did manage to scorch the net. South Korea approves a budget to cover for expenses including ticket fees, accommodation, and transportation incurred by the North Korea delegation taking part in the PyeongChang Winter Olympics. NEWSCENTER begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Once again, our starting point is traffic updates, as tomorrow is the first day of Seollal, a major holiday here in the nation. Koreans begin their journey towards, but mostly out of the capital, to attend family gatherings in various parts of this country. Our Park Hee-jun is out and about at the Seoul toll gate for us. Hee-jun, how are things looking right now?
Good evening, Daniel. Since this afternoon, there hasn't been much congestion, but since around 2 hours ago at 6 p.m., many cars have been struggling to make progress. Like you said, the holidays officially begin tomorrow, but many people have been deciding to begin their journeys extra early. You can probably see the early birds behind me leaving Seoul. And at this rate, drivers heading to the southern city of Busan should expect to be behind the wheel some 6 hours and a half. The same distance is covered usually in about 4 hours.
Now, it's an annual adventure one can never get used to, Hee-jun. Before we let you go, do enlighten us about the conditions for the rest of the 4-day weekend.
Well, traffic is expected to be the most chaotic tomorrow morning on the first day of the holiday season and on the afternoon of the second day, which is the actual day of Seollal. During the four-day holiday starting from Thursday to Sunday, around 6.5 million people are expected to travel each day. 80% of them will be using the road, so bumper-to-bumper traffic is a given in the highways pretty much throughout the holiday. And throughout the 4 days, the Korea Expressway Corporation says it's going to take 7 hours and 20 minutes to get from Seoul to Busan, 40 minutes longer than it took last year. Plus, with the PyeongChang Winter Olympics continuing through Seollal, it's going to be a long journey for those driving to and from the host cities of Gangneung and PyeongChang. Brace yourself for an average of 5.5 hours behind the wheel, and at times even as long as 7 hours to get to Gangneung. Overall, you will be spending more time driving than last year. Like I said, it's crucial to put safety first. Be extra careful because your loved ones are on board with you. And that's all you have from me. Have a great holiday, everyone, and you too, Daniel.
All right, thank you for the updates. We hope you have a wonderful Seollal too, Hee-jun. We appreciate it. The nation's lawmakers may not be able to travel to hometowns or attend family events to celebrate the holidays. Kim Min-ji shows us why the Lunar New Year is an opportune time for some meet and greet with the people to promote their agendas.
Korean lawmakers on the eve of traditional holidays make a point of greeting the masses of people traveling to their hometowns. Many people will get a 4-day break, but it won't be all play for lawmakers. At dinner tables across the country, politics will be a major topic of discussion. And with local elections now just 4 months away, parties will be on the streets promoting their agenda and reaching out. The ruling Democratic Party of Korea headed to Seoul Station. Greeting people getting on trains bound for the Olympic host cities, the party expressed their wish that the PyeongChang Games are the start of peace.
This holiday is extra special because the world has its eyes on Korea because of the Olympics and hopes for peace. It is our wish that this becomes an Olympics of peace that leads to dialogue between the two Koreas and even Pyongyang and Washington.
The main opposition Liberty Korea party also bid farewell to the homeward bound, using the opportunity to make a public pledge to work for the middle class and the low-income bracket, as well as to keep the government in check.
During the holidays, we will be gathering public opinion on constitutional reform and to rid the country's imperialistic presidential system to make a better country for the people. We will also be pushing for inter-Korean talks based on the premise of denuclearization.
The Pyongyang party, newly formed through a merger of two minor opposition blocs, also visited a train station in Seoul to greet citizens. As their name indicates, Pyongyang meaning right or proper, and Mire meaning future, they wore sashes reading for a future of value and wished all a pleasant holiday break. It will be extra important for the new party to make themselves known, having only been on the scene for one day.
We will be judicious about what we do and what we say, and become a party that works to improve people's lives and boost the economy and our country's security. We wish to become a new hope for those tired of the ruling bloc and the main opposition.
The Party for Democracy and Peace also greeted people heading home, handing them pamphlets promoting their party and their progressive agenda. They'll also be heading to various regions across the country during the break to hear what the people have to say. The minor Progressive Justice Party was also at a local train station where they vowed to work harder to create a country where equal and fair opportunities are given to all. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
In the name of peace and reconciliation, South Korea is more than happy to play an accommodating host to the visiting North Korean delegation here for the Olympics and the various celebrations related to it. According to our Kim Young-gil, the Unification Ministry is willing to use the funds set aside for inter-Korean cooperation for that purpose.
The South Korean government has approved a budget worth $2.6 million to cover expenses incurred by the North Korean delegation sent to PyeongChang.
The expense include accommodation costing $1 million, ticket fees at $930,000, transportation costs of over $90,000, and so on.
The South and North Exchange and Cooperation Promotion Council under South Korea's Unification Ministry and headed by Unification Minister Cho Myung-gyun held a meeting on Wednesday to deliberate on a motion to use money from this year's Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund.
Through the PyeongChang Olympics, North Korea had the chance to communicate with the international community and promote peace on the Korean peninsula.
Besides Olympic athletes and high-level officials, Pyongyang sent hundreds of North Koreans to South Korea, including cheerleaders, orchestra members and musicians, members of a taekwondo demonstration team and journalists. The South Korean government plans to hold another meeting concerning the participation of North Korea with a delegation of roughly 150 members at the PyeongChang Paralympics to kick off in March. During a high-level meeting early last month, the two Koreas agreed that Seoul will provide convenience for the North Koreans attending the Olympics. This wouldn't be the first time for South Korea to bankroll the regime's participation at an international event, as Seoul previously bankrolled millions of dollars for North Korean participants during the Asian Games and the Summer Universiade held in South Korea. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Washington appeared adamant on strengthening its pressure and sanctions campaign against North Korea. But now the country is also showing signs that talking with the regime may not be completely out of the question. Oh Jung-hee explores the possibility of that turnaround.
The U.S. State Department left open the possibility of a chat with North Korea to discuss plans for actual negotiations. At a regular press briefing on Tuesday, the department's spokesperson, Heather Nauert, said Washington and Pyongyang would have to have a, quote, preliminary chat to set the agenda for negotiations. She reiterated that the U.S. will talk with North Korea if the regime wants to, but the main topic will be denuclearization for sure, and the maximum pressure campaign will continue. The remark echoed that of U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson on Monday.
It's really up to the North Koreans to decide when they're ready to engage with us in a sincere way. We're going to need to have some discussions that precede any form of negotiation to determine whether the parties are in fact ready.
Could this mean Washington, which has been more or less tilted towards maximum pressure against the North, is softening its stance?
The U.S. is kind of leaving a initiative to South Korean government. South Korea now have utilized the Olympic Games and now came up with a possible summit meeting with North Korea, which I think is a very important pathway for denuclearization. From the U.S. perspective, U.S. position, that's something that is worth to try.
But it's widely seen that the U.S. stance does not differ much from before. Maximum pressure and the goal of denuclearization remain the same.
It's hard to see any change in policy based on the current U.S. rhetoric. It's not that Washington will talk with North Korea without discussions on denuclearization. The U.S. is only saying it won't completely shun dialogue with Pyongyang if it shows a forward-looking change towards denuclearization.
South Korean President Moon Jae-in said Tuesday that the U.S. expressed a willingness to talk to North Korea, but making Washington-Pyongyang talks materialize is a different matter, which requires further coordination between Seoul and Washington, making sure they're on the same page. 오정희, Arirang News.
It's day 5 of the 2018 PyeongChang Winter Olympics. I'm Kim Hae-sung with the latest on the games. Let's kick things off with the highlights so far. In the women's ice hockey preliminary match that ended an hour ago, the unified Korea team lost to Japan by a score of 4-1. Ice hockey was one of the headline grabbers for the Olympics, hockey being the only event in which the two Koreas formed a joint team, making it a symbol of peace and unity. It was a loss for the joint Korea team, but on the bright side, they scored their first Olympic goal. That goal was put away by naturalized Korean national Randy Hisu Griffin. Neither Korea nor Japan will be moving on to the playoff round. At 7 p.m. was the women's 1,000-meter speed skating, and all eyes are on South Korea's Park Seung-hee, a former short-track speed skater who won 2 gold medals at the Sochi Olympics. Going back to earlier today, another gold for Team USA in the halfpipe. Yesterday, 17-year-old Chloe Kim hogged the spotlight, remember? Now it's Shaun White's turn, a.k.a. the Flying Tomato. He claimed gold in men's halfpipe with a score of 97.75, becoming the first man ever to win 3 snowboarding gold medals. Japan and Austria won bronze and silver. Speaking of making history, last night, South Korea's Kim Min-seok became the first Asian speed skater with a medal finish in the men's 1,500-meter event. Clocking in at 1 minute 44.93 seconds, less than 1 second behind Dutch gold medalist Geert Nauwis. He's just 18, meaning we could be seeing more of Kim on the podium next time. Weather conditions in PyeongChang aren't really helping the skiers. Women's slalom was scheduled for 10 this morning, but was postponed to Friday due to strong winds. Now let's take a look at the medal tally so far. Germany sits atop with 6 gold medals, the Netherlands trailing behind with 4 gold medals, all from speed skating. The United States is at number 3 at the moment, and Austria with 2 golds from luge and alpine skiing ranks 8th, and South Korea, the host country of the Games, ranks 10th with 1 gold and 1 bronze. There are still more exciting events coming up tomorrow. Pair skating finals is slated for 10:30 tomorrow in the morning, and 16 pairs will take to ice, including Team USA's husband and wife duo Alexa and Chris Crinham. At 8 in the evening, men's 10,000-meter speed skating and men's biathlon will take place. That's all I have for now, and until the next PyeongChang Winter Olympics updates, I'll wrap things up with the latest results from today's events.
All right. right, thank you for those updates, Hye-sung. Visitors to the host cities of PyeongChang and Gangneung can also hit some eateries to sample the flavors of various cultures. For some, it can also be a chance to whet their palates with some soul food while in a foreign land for the duration of the Olympics. Our Won Jung-hwan takes us to these gastronomic venues.
It's Canada's home away from home. The 1,100 square meter facility opened in Gangneung last week with a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The house is open to fans with tickets for Olympic events to cheer on their favorite athletes.
When we set out at the beginning of this project for PyeongChang 2018 in Gangneung, we decided if we could find a way, if we could find the right venue, the right place to welcome the world and to welcome Koreans and to welcome international spectators, it was something we wanted to do. It's very Canadian to be welcoming and friendly and kind. So,
if guests register online before arriving, they will receive a special wristband when checking in. Here at the Canada Olympic House, people can purchase food and beverage with this wristband and get a little taste of Canada in Gangneung. The menu includes Canadian staples and, of course, the country's classic dish, poutine, a hearty dish of French fries, cheese curds, and gravy. The striking red building is expected to host 10,000 guests over the course of the Games. Meanwhile, at the opposite end of the Gangneung Olympic Village, there's the Check House. It's open every day during the Olympics and will serve hungry and thirsty guests from 11 a.m. through midnight. Entry to the Check House, which was first introduced at the 2012 London Olympics, is free of charge to all visitors, regardless of whether you have a ticket for the Olympics or not. The house, decorated with paintings donated by the country's tourist board, offers national delicacies that go great together with Czech Republic's world-renowned selection of beers. And in the heart of PyeongChang, at the foot of the Olympic piste, and close to the alpine winter sports venues, is the House of Switzerland.
It's also really nice to see how international it's become all of a sudden. Obviously, because of the Olympics and people from all over the world coming, it almost feels like a global village in a sense. And no, it's great.
At the Swiss House, visitors are able to try their hand at shooting pucks into hockey nets at the synthetic ice rink and can take souvenir snaps at the various photo points. The Olympic houses are the ideal places to let your hair down, mingle with people from around the world, and make the Olympic experience all the more memorable. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News, PyeongChang.
The Japanese government once again claimed ownership of Korea's Dokdo Island in new guidelines for its school textbooks. Tokyo's Education Ministry unveiled a draft of the new guidelines that would have students in Japan taught that the easternmost islets, which they call Takeshima, belongs to Japan. Once finalized, the guidelines are to be applied to high school textbooks from the year 2022. Despite the fact that historically, geographically, and under international law, Dokdo is Korean territory, Japan already put such claims in its elementary and middle school curriculum. South Korea lost another elderly victim of Japan's wartime sex slavery early this morning, leaving the number of registered survivors at just 30. Identified only by her last name Kim, she passed away after suffering from a stroke and severe dementia. She was 88 years old. Her death comes as Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe insists Seoul abides by a controversial agreement the two sides reached back in late 2015. The Korean government calls the deal sealed under the previous administration seriously flawed. President Moon Jae-in vowed not to seek renegotiations, expressing hopes for a sincere apology instead. The Minister for the Office of Government Policy Coordination replied to an online petition opposing the latest in cryptocurrency policy here in the nation. According to Hong Nam-gi, the policy aims to not just prevent any wrongdoings and opacity in the course of relevant transactions, but also to actively foster blockchain technology. He added the government is keeping an eye on the global virtual currency market and international trends while taking measures to crack down on any illegal activities. The comments were made in response to a petition on Cheongwade's online bulletin board opposing the latest cryptocurrency regulations. There were more than 280,000 signatures as of late last month. Presidential office rules state that the top office must reply to any petition that gathered 200,000 signatures within 30 days. January saw the number of new jobs created in Korea exceed government targets. Unfortunately, on the flip side, layoffs also increased, particularly in the food and lodging sectors. Kim Jaein breaks down the digits for us.
For the first time in 5 months, the number of people unemployed in Korea surpassed 1 million amid rising concerns over the increase in the country's minimum wage this year. Statistics Korea says the country added 334,000 new jobs last month compared to the previous year, bringing the total number of people in work to more than 26.2 million. The number of new jobs increased at the government's target rate of 300,000 new jobs created per month. However, layoffs increased by 31,000 on year in the food and lodging sectors, affected by the minimum wage increase to around $7 an hour, up 16.4% from last year. The ministry says the mild on-year pickup came on the back of increased employment in the semiconductor, construction, and health and social welfare services sectors. But the number of people employed in the wholesale and retail sales dropped.
Job creation in the private sector shows no signs of picking up anytime soon. Also, domestic consumption still remains sluggish, except for the construction sector, which is currently benefiting from the country's low interest rate.
An official from the statistics agency attributed the main reasons for the gloomy figures, particularly among the youth, to an increased number of people applying for public sector jobs and a rapidly decreasing population due to low birth rates. The youth jobless rate in January edged up to 8.7%. Kim Jaein, Arirang News.
The current U.S. administration continues to pressure its trading partners. Korea is visibly in the crossfire as President Donald Trump vows to take stronger measures regarding international trade. Park Ji-won has the full story.
U.S. President Donald Trump says he's considering imposing trade protection measures like retaliatory taxes and quotas on imports of steel and aluminum. If taken, those measures would likely hit steel products from Korea. The comments were made at a meeting with a bipartisan group of about 20 lawmakers as Trump reiterated the need for what he calls reciprocal measures on trade.
I mean, the word reciprocal is a very important word. We have countries that are taking advantage of us, and we're going to make it fair. And that, I call that fair trade.
When mentioning America's chronic trade deficit, he expressed dissatisfaction with Japan and South Korea over the sharing of their defense costs.
We defend Japan, we defend South Korea. They pay us a fraction of what it costs. And we're talking to all of those countries about that because it's not fair that we defend them and they pay us a fraction of the cost of that defense.
He's apparently adding pressure on America's trading partners, including South Korea, in his push to protect the U.S. market. The Trump administration is currently negotiating with Korea to revise the 2012 bilateral free trade agreement, which Trump calls a, quote, very bad trade deal, vowing to scrap it if the renegotiation doesn't yield satisfactory results. Trump also claimed that following GM Korea's decision to close its plant in the southwestern city of Kunsan in May this year, the car company is moving back to Detroit. General Motors, however, has not announced that it's moving back to Detroit, and in a statement said the decision was made because of sustained significant losses. Still here in Korea, experts warn that in the long run, protectionism could hurt the local economy.
Many scholars in Asia are worried about the Trump administration's protectionist policies. Although it hasn't affected Korea's trade volumes or exports to a great degree as of now, that's just because the Korean economy relies heavily on the export of semiconductors, which usually have low tariffs.
Experts add that protectionism could even hinder the growth of global GDP because they say it distorts the optimal distribution of resources and reduces the volume of international trade. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Let's turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need for the long weekend ahead. Michelle, the weather has warmed up, but along with the warmth came a lot of dust. Hope springs eternal that the conditions won't last through the Seollal holiday weekend.
Well, Daniel, except for the far southern regions of the country, the air quality looks very bad. Until tomorrow morning, we'll have high concentration of dust in the air, which will fade into the afternoon. So stay updated on the dust level so you can avoid it during your 4 days Seollal holiday. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off the day at -5 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Busan will be warmer at -2 and 4 degrees respectively. The daily highs will be relatively mild too, Seoul rising up to 3 degrees, Gwangju and Busan rising to 8 and 10 degrees. We'll be under partly cloudy skies during the Korean New Year holiday, and the temperatures will remain at norms or even higher, so you won't have to worry about the serious cold we've been having. But we'll be under partly cloudy skies, and the weather is very dry, so be extra careful with any sources of fire. Likewise, for PyeongChang, the temperatures will be milder than today, but stronger winds are expected as well. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's it for tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. From all of us here at Arirang News, to those who celebrate the holidays, Happy Lunar New Year, and to anyone who's watching from other parts of our world, thank you for watching.